Okay, welcome back to the flight deck. We are on the runway and we've been cleared for takeoff, so at any point I can go ahead and execute and initiate that process. But since there are a lot of things that go on, and I probably won't do much talking since it's a very work-intensive part of the flight, I'll go ahead and make my commentary right now. When we decide to take off, the first thing we'll do is spool up the engines to 60% in one, and we'll want to see them stabilized symmetrically at 60%. And once that occurs, the airspeed over here in the speed tape the airspeed may not budge much, but we'll see the ground speed start to come up because we'll start moving. And I'll go ahead at that point on my side and press the button on the clock here and initiate the flight duration timer, which is this little space where there are no digits right now. That'll start from 0, and once we start it, it'll tell us the time that has elapsed between the initiation of the takeoff roll and the current point. The digits up top are actually represents the time according to Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. Apparently it's 3:51 out there in Greenwich right now, PM. It happens to be 8:51, I believe, AM here in Los Angeles. So once I start the takeoff roll, I'm going to actually hit this N1 button right here, and that will automatically set our takeoff thrust. Remember, we'll already be at 60% power, but then we'll advance to 108.5% power. Once the thrust is set, we will make an audible call out as a checkpoint, and the airspeed will become active here once we get above 30 knots indicated. And when we accelerate through 80 knots, we'll also acknowledge that. We'll hit V1 over here on our airspeed indicator, and we'll acknowledge that. And at that point, I'll take my hand off the throttle, because remember, there's no turning back at that point. My hands will be firmly on the yoke, and 5 knots later, at 129 knots, we'll rotate. I'll pull back on the yoke, and the aircraft will assume a nose-up attitude, but not too severe an attitude so as to cause a tail strike. But we'll go ahead and wait at that point for the aircraft to lift up off the ground. Once we have a positive rate of climb, which will be indicated by a positive vertical speed on this indicator here, then we'll know we're off the ground, and we'll call for gear up, and we'll start climbing. At 400 feet AGL above ground, which will be at about 540 feet MSL on the altimeter, I'll call for heading select, which will instruct the flight director. Heading select is right here. It's actually right here. It'll instruct the flight director to direct us to make a turn, but I'm not actually going to start the turn until ATC tells us, which probably won't be until we're past 1,000 feet AGL to make our turn. So I'm going to continue straight based on the instructions given by ATC, straight ahead, climb to 1,000 feet AGL, which will be our bugged EFRA height, and at that point we'll transition from takeoff thrust to a slightly lower thrust of that we'll call climb thrust. That'll be accomplished by hitting VNAV, vertical navigation, and I'll have to push the nose down a bit manually by pushing forward on the yoke, and to maintain our airspeed and also begin to pick up a little bit of speed. Initially, I'm gonna the initial nose up attitude of the aircraft will be probably between 15 and 20 degrees, and I'm gonna shoot for 156 knots, and we'll be at flaps 15, and I'm gonna begin inching up on the airspeed ever so slightly until we hit approximately 176 knots. Then we'll start cleaning up the aircraft, as I stated previously, in 20-knot increments. Flaps 5 at 176 knots, flaps 1 at 196 knots, and then we'll be totally clean with flaps up at 216 knots. Below 10,000 feet there is a airspeed limit of 250 knots, so we'll probably stay at about 245 knots, and then the altitude chime will sound at 8,000 feet. By then I will have already hopefully completed my turn to heading 283 here, which as you can see is about a 30-degree turn, and the aircraft will be clean, and I'll engage the autopilot center command, and we'll do our after takeoff checks. I don't know how long that'll take, but it'll probably be less than 5 minutes. So I guess that's it for the takeoff procedure. Once we hit 8,000 feet, we'll level off, and whoa, there's another aircraft taking off on the other runway there, but or no, that's an Aeromexico flight landing. So anyway, once we hit 8,000 feet, we'll level off, and then we'll be cleared to some higher altitude. 10,000 feet is the transition altitude in terms of speed. At that point, there's no speed constraint, so we'll above 10,000 feet, we'll push down on the nose again to gain more speed, well beyond 300 knots indicated, and then at 18,000 feet we'll set the altimeter to 2992, and we'll point out those things in flight, but for now that's the takeoff procedure. We'll come back and execute it.